Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zoom room. I noticed most of you or all of you have your camera or your microphones muted. This is going to be a presentation where you will be able to ask questions as we move through it. So if you would like to please unmute your microphone or when you have a question, unmute your microphone. You can type questions into the chat. Shannon will be watching that for us and letting us know what questions are coming in. Also, I would ask that you cut your cameras on. I'd like to see who I'm talking to. It gives me a better idea of who's in the room and keep you engaged in the conversation. So if you would, please cut your cameras on if at all possible. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. There you go, Frank, Luke. Luke's upside down there. Come on, cut your cameras on. We're going to have a little interaction going on. Good to see you guys. We still have some people coming in, so let's, there you go. Keep those cameras coming on. A good looking audience. All right, they're still coming in. I still see admit up there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Continue to cut your cameras on as you can. So I want to welcome you to this presentation on cost of doing business. If you're in the applied service business and you want to know what to charge for your services, you are in the right place. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Don Harris. I owned Dependable Services in Atlanta, Georgia for 40 plus years. I started it in 1970. We are, if you know anything about it, Atlanta, we are on the west side of Atlanta, near a little amusement park called Six Flags. We're about 3 or 4 miles physical location from Six Flags. Dependable Services residents in the metro Atlanta area. We offer services for appliance service, HVAC sales and service, restaurant equipment service, both hot side and cold side, ice machines, and water heaters. At its peak, Dependable had about 45 employees with about 25 service trucks on the road servicing our customers. However, COVID really hit Dependable pretty hard, especially on the restaurant equipment side. As you can probably imagine, restaurants weren't open, so we didn't have any service to do. So that side really kind of took a beating. Today, Dependable is running about 25 to 30 employees, and we're in the rebuilding process. I opened Dependable Services, as I said, in 1970 and sold it to my son, Brannon, in 2014, and he is currently running it today. In 2014, I started Service Success Group, and I started coaching and consulting service business owners just like you. I felt like it was time for me to give back to the industry, and I certainly wanted to be able to do that, the industry that was really good to me. And so I wanted to share some of my experiences, the good times and the bad. So maybe some of you guys could avoid some of the pitfalls that I experienced during that time. I started off coaching appliance service business owners, and I added HVAC and restaurant equipment servicers within the last 4 or 5 years. So I've been doing this for about 6 to 8 years now. I also offer one-on-one coaching and consulting, and I currently run 3 mastermind groups, and it's all about how to run a service operation. So if that's something that you might be interested in, reach out to me or chat with me in the vendor thing a little bit later on. And so about 3-4 weeks ago, I was at the PSA convention and met Carmine Dionisio, And he asked me, he was in one of my presentations, and he asked me if I could do a presentation for you guys on cost of doing business. So we worked out the details, and here I am today to do exactly that. And I'm honored to be there. A little bit about me personally. I'm just like many of you. I got started in the home services trade because I was really good at fixing stuff. Still am. I was that child at Christmas that took the toys apart instead of played with them. I enjoyed working with my hands and just loved taking things apart to see what made them work. Putting them back together wasn't such a good thing back then, but I've learned on that. After high school, I went to college to pursue a mechanical engineering degree. And while I was in college, a strange thing happened. I started a service business. It was really weird. I had the opportunity from a manufacturer to do some warranty work on some gas air conditioners that they had produced and were having a lot of problems. So I jumped at the opportunity to do that. But the crazy side is I had no idea how to run a business. But I did it, and I started the business. And I bet many of you did the same thing. You probably were really good at fixing stuff. And so you started your business and thought that that would be all you needed to do was be good at fixing stuff. But most of you probably didn't have a clue about how to run a business when you started. You were just great at fixing stuff. So back to my story. Here I was, 20 years old, my second year in college, starting a business with no business experience. During the fall, winter, and spring, I went to college with a little work here and there. But during the summer, I worked on air conditioning units. It was a really cool gig. No pun intended there. It worked out really well for me. And then I did that for about 3 years while I was still in school, and I just loved it. And I made some pretty good money. At least I thought I did at that period of time. Remember, I didn't really know anything about running a business. So I was just looking at my checking account, and I had money in there. So I thought I was doing pretty good. So after completing college, I had a decision to make. I could go to work for someone else, sitting behind a desk all day long, drafting and designing mechanical equipment, or I could continue the business I started. So you know what I did. I kept the business going. But even after 3 years of owning a business, I still didn't have a clue about running the business. I was that true Chuck in a truck. I was just working day in and day out, fixing stuff and collecting my money. And that's all I knew about business, getting the work, doing the work, and collecting money. And maybe some of you think the same way. Maybe you think it's just about the work you do, you know, getting new work, getting new customers, and collecting money and watching your checking account. You think it's really all about the work you do in the field, but it's not. There's so much more to running a business than just doing the work in the field. You see, for me, I was totally consumed with my ability to fix stuff. I had no clue about financials, how to price for my services, or any of that kind of stuff. I just ran the business from the seat of my pants and my checking account balance. It took me 20 plus years to really get it figured out. And that's why I'm here today. I figured it out. And I don't want to share what I know with you guys, especially about pricing for your services. You see, I've been in your shoes. I know what your frustrations is, and I know what your struggles are. And we're going to talk about how to price for your services today. We're going to talk about your cost of doing business. What does it cost you to get a technician to the door, to do the repair, and to make sure that you're making a profit on each and every job? That profit, that little four-letter word that we seem to ignore sometimes, that four-letter word that we just hope and pray for at the end of the year. And we fail to plan to make that happen. And when we do that, we plan to fail. So we're going to dig into the cost of doing business so we can make sure that you are succeeding in your business. And so I want to begin, and I just want to throw out, and you guys can unmute and answer this questions. how do you charge for your services? Do you charge by the hour? Do you do flat rate? How did you determine your cost of doing business? So if some of you like to unmute and share, I'd love to hear some answers from you. Come on, don't be bashful.
Well, I'll speak up for you.
Okay.
We normally just charge if it's just we only do appliances. We don't do HVAC or anything, but
Okay.
we normally just charge by the trip, which I know is probably not the right thing to do. My dad started this appliance business 45 years ago, and he did all the service repairs. Yeah. So he kind of set everything up the way that he wanted it to go. Yeah. But he has since passed away. We've had to go through the process of learning to find a new appliance tech. And so I'm so grateful that you guys did all this program, because I'm lost as to how to do all this. But, you know, right now we charge $85 for a service call. And sometimes they have to go back twice, you know, if they don't have the part. And even though that seems high, I still feel like we're cutting our throats sometimes if he has to make 2 trips.
Believe me, that's not high. That is not high.
Well, we live in rural Alabama.
That's
so, right. You know, we have to, when I started working with my dad, he only charged $45, believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
all right.
You know, we're kind of inching them up to the newer economy, but it's still difficult, you know.
I really hope I open your eyes today for you to see that if you really want to be successful, that may or may not be the right number for you. We're going to go through that. And do you do warranty work?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And how do you set that warranty rate?
Well, the way that I set my service call rate is they pretty much tell me. They told me what they would pay me. It wasn't that I said it, it's that they told me.
All right. And that's kind of a fallacy. There is such a thing as negotiating a labor rate. And there's such a thing as saying no sometimes if that labor rate is below what it's really costing you to do that service. Because when you start accepting just whatever rate they're throwing out at you, you may be subsidizing their warranty department, and you may be doing it at less than it costs you to run that service call. And if they can get that labor rate lower for what they're going to pay their servicers to run that call, that's just extra money in their pocket. So you got to
Well, we're kind of in a good position because, you know, like I said, we're in rural Alabama. Yep. So we're an hour from Huntsville, Alabama, and we're an hour from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where most of the servicers are. So none of those servicers want to drive this far to work on anything. So I feel like we can name our price.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I guarantee you, a gallon of milk costs just as much in that rural Alabama as it does in the big metropolis of Atlanta or Birmingham or wherever else. The cost of doing business is not much different from really rural to a metropolitan area. You know, cost of living is higher in some places than the other, but really when it comes down to it, you got to buy groceries and you pay the same thing that most everybody else does. And so you're not going to see that much of a difference in labor rates. Your expenses, utilities, and that kind of stuff may or may not be lower, but we're going to talk about that as we go through this stuff. So all of you should have downloaded the cost of doing business template when you registered. Is there anybody that did not download it or does not have access to that?
I did not download it.
Okay. If you did not download it, I need you to go to servicesuccessgroup.com/PSA. servicesuccessgroup.com/PSA. It'll open a page, put in your name, your email address, and hit enter or submit or claim your free gift, whatever it says there. It'll pop up a thank you screen, and in that thank you screen, there'll be a little link there that says download. You click that link, it should download to your computer, and you should be set to go. Because I want all you guys to work through this thing as we're going through it. So at the end of our, 55 minutes together, you'll actually know what your cost of doing business is. And you're going to have to look at some of these things. And if you don't know exactly what the number is, give me your best guess. Put your best guess in there, and you'll be able to come back and change some things in there as you figure out exactly. The closer you can get, the more accurate your cost of doing business is going to be. But if you don't know, let's just put a number in there. So any questions on that? Anybody, everybody have that thing downloaded? Give you just a couple of minutes more if you don't have it.
Don, I did add it to the chat as well for anybody for a quick reference.
All right, so the link is in the chat if you are having trouble remembering what it is. But please, please, please download it, and let's work through this thing together. Because I want you, as you're going through it, if you have questions about what's in a particular area, I want you to be able to ask that question so we can get it answered and worked out while we're working through this process. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to work through this template. All right, everybody see my screen? All right, I'm going to complete this form as we're going through, and you should see there's some different colors in here. Anywhere there's a yellow cell or a yellow space, that's where you can put in your information. So just follow me along. I'm sorry. Did somebody say something? All right, enter your name, enter your company name. All right, and then enter your name that is prepared by you. And then enter today's date. What is it? 10/18. All right. The next one is going to ask you, what are your average monthly expenses? This is everything except whatever your payroll payrolls may be. Do not include your inside support staff. I know it's probably got it in your expense category, but if it is in your expenses, deduct that out of there. I just want to know what your overall expenses. We're gonna deal with people here in just a few minutes, what you pay your people, but everything except whatever your payroll expenses and your parts. Do not include parts in here. And so I'm just going to put in here a number. I'm gonna say that my monthly business expense is $30,000. That does not include my parts cost that I have to pay. That's something that should be in cost of goods sold and not in expenses. And I am not including my payroll in here. So once you put that number in there, we get $360,000 a year in expenses. Again, excluding your payroll and your parts. The next section, it talks about owners and service managers. The reason this is separated out from the other employees, sometimes owners work in the field. Sometimes they work in the office. If you have a service manager, sometimes they work in the field, sometimes they work in the office. So what it's asking you here is, as an owner, what are you paying a weekly salary to that owner? And so I'm going to put in here that this owner is making $1,000 a month. Okay, that's his, not a month, a week. That's his weekly salary, $1,000 a week. Now, the next question is, what percentage of time does this owner spend running service calls in the field? For my example here, I'm going to say that he spends 25% of his time in the field running service calls. If you've got an owner that's spending 75%, 80%, 90% of his time in the field, please put that in there, because the time in the field is going to go toward what it really costs. Well, both are going toward what it costs to run your business, but by this way, we're including them in the technician classification too. So I got him 25% of the time. I come down, and this company has a service manager. You could call him a field supervisor, but he kind of oversees the technicians. And by overseeing the technicians, it means that he may have to spend some of the time in the office, maybe doing some training, maybe some time in the field doing some training. And what percent of time does he spend in the field doing non-revenue producing work, or in the office doing non-revenue producing work versus the time in the office? And we're going to say he's going to get $800 a week as a salary, and he spends 75% of his time in the field. So there we've got for the business owner, we've got $750 going into expenses, and we've got $250 going toward technician wages, running service calls. The service manager, we have $200 going toward expenses, managing the technicians, and we've got $600 worth of going toward running service calls along with the technicians. All right. Any questions? We got that. All right. The next thing we're going to do, I want to know about your inside support staff. This is your customer service, your office managers, your dispatchers. If you have somebody in there just handling parts, all those people that are a critical part of running your business, but they don't generate revenue. And so I'm going to put in here, I've got Susie in here, and I'm going to say she's an office manager. And Susie gets paid $20 an hour. All right. We've got Mary in here, and she's a CSR, and she gets $18 an hour. Okay. I've got Ryan that helps out with parts. He may help out with ordering parts, receiving parts. He may even deliver parts to the technicians sometimes, but he's kind of a parts guy, but he doesn't generate any revenue. His cost is all about getting the parts to the tech. And let's say we pay him $15 an hour. All right. And then we've got, let's see, we've got another lady in here, Betty, and she's just an assistant that does whatever you may need her to do. And we're going to pay her $15 an hour. All right. So enter all your inside support staff, the people that support your technicians in the field, in this category right here. Now we've got 4 people in the office. You can see down the results in the bottom. We've got 4 people. Our total cost for all those people is $68 an hour. In other words, every hour throughout the day that they're working, as the owner, you're spending $68 an hour to keep them employed and keep them doing the things that they need to do. This is just their raw salary. It's not counting their tax burdens and your matching Social Security and all that kind of stuff. All that is up in expenses. This is just their raw labor. And so we take a look at all 4 of those, and on an average, we're paying our inside support staff $17 an hour. All right, everybody with me? Make sense?
Hey, Don.
Yes.
Can I get Ryan and Betty's number? I need to make them an offer.
Yeah, while I was looking at this, I said, well, some of these numbers may be a little low. So, but we can certainly, that's the beauty about this right here. You can go back in and say you lose Ryan right here, and all of a sudden you got to replace him with a $20 an hour guy. Well, you can go back in here and change this number, and all of a sudden your cost of doing business may increase by $1 or $2 per hour, just to make sure you've got his wages covered. All right, we're all good? All right, technicians. Now start entering your technicians in here. I got a good technician here, Jim, and he's making 28 bucks an hour. So he's experienced in the field right here. I've got another technician, Bob. He's also been in the field a little bit longer than Jim, and maybe I pay him 30 bucks an hour.
How do you figure a commit if they're making a commission instead of
okay? So if they are making a commission, and that's all explained up in there in that flesh tone color. But if he's paid commission, take his average commission for the last 4 weeks, and then divide it by 40 and come up with an equivalent hourly rate. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close enough to make it happen. So if you got commission people, which you see most people going that commission route right now, that's the way to figure your commission. Take an average over the last 4 weeks, and then divide that by 40 and get an equivalent hourly rate. All right. We got Eric in here. He hadn't been around as long, and he makes 22 bucks an hour. And we got a guy that's really kind of new in this in the field. We got Alan, and maybe we brought him in at 18 bucks an hour. And then maybe we got one more guy here. Let's see, maybe we got Roy here. And you got him to the point where he's running warranty calls or easy calls, dryer calls, whatever it want to be. And maybe you were able to bring him in at 15 bucks an hour. Now I'm not talking about trainees here. If you have trainees that are riding with somebody else in the field, and that lead technician or that main technician is the one that's producing the revenue, then the wages for the trainee should be included in expenses in a training cost. So you get the idea of what it's really costing you to train somebody to be a technician that can be out in the field on his own. So these are revenue producing technicians. Again, if you got a trainee, he should be under expenses as non-producing. And if you don't, you could even take and add them in as a inside support staff, and in the position, just put in training, put in the hourly rate you pay him. That will also add into the calculation. So you can put it in either place, either expenses or in inside support staff, and it'll work itself out. So adjusted hourly rate for the owner running service calls spread out over 40 hours is $6.25 that owner gets for running service calls based on a 40-hour work week. The service manager gets 15 bucks an hour while he's running service calls. He's only running 75% of the time in running service calls. So his adjusted hourly rate is 15. Our total hourly cost for all technicians is $134.25. Make sense? And we've got 5 service technicians, but we say we have a total here because we've got a quarter of an employee with the owner as a technician, and we got 3/4 with the service manager. So that equals 1 total employee. And so our total average hourly rate for all our technicians is $22.38. I've said a lot right there. Any questions? I'm assuming everybody is following me. All right. All right. Now we talk about technicians paid time off or paid days off. You write in here, how many holidays do you pay your employees? So I'm going to put in that they get 7 holidays. How many vacation days do you give your technicians? And I'm going to say 10. All right. How many sick days do you give the technicians? If it's 0, leave 0 in there. If it's 3, put 3 in there. If it's 5, put 5, depending on how compassionate you are with these guys. I'm going to put in 3 days for sick days. Training days. technicians need to go to training. It may be a manufacturer's training. It may be at a PSA training. It may be some of these independent trainers that are out there now. Fred's Appliance, Fred's Academy. What's the other one in Texas? Okay, it could be an independent training company. Maybe you send them there for a week. Maybe you send them to a convention for a week where they pick up 5 days of training. But you need to have your technicians training with ongoing training. I'm going to put in here that my technicians are going to get 5 days of training a year. All right. Now, do you have technician meetings once a week, twice a month, once a month, whatever that is? In my scenario, I'm going to say that we meet 4 times a month. I know sometimes there's more than 4 in there. I'm just going to average it out to 4. If I wanted to put in 4.3, I could put in 4.3, and that would probably cover me for the month. So that's a month every day. If I get my typing working right here, but you could put a decimal point in there if you wanted to. Is what I'm trying to say. But I'm going to put in 4, and these meetings typically last an hour. All right. So I have an equivalent number of days that the technicians get paid, but they're not producing any revenue, 31 days a year. Make sense? Okay. Now, if you're working 52 weeks a year and you're working 40 hours a week, you have 2,080 hours that you have the ability to bill out your services to a customer. However, we've got to take these days that we just took in consideration. So we've taken and converted them to hours. For paid holidays, there's 56 hours per technician. For paid vacation, there's 80 hours. For sick days, there's 24 hours. For training, there's 40 hours. And for meetings, an equivalent of 48 hours each year that you're paying these technicians, but they're not generating any revenue. So that drops it down to 1,832 hours that these technicians get paid. Get paid. So the net hours available to you is 10,999. There's something wrong in that formula there. Let's see right quick like here. That should be 1,992. All right. I'm going to switch forms right quick like, because this is one that I did. I updated it for you guys, and I evidently have an error in there. So give me just a minute. Let me pull another form up here. I'm going to get the previous form up here. And I'm just going to put some information. Get caught up with where I was. And I'm just going to put some, I don't remember what the numbers were, but I'm just going to put some numbers in here.
Hey, Don, it looks like we have a note from Frank. He thinks the issue with your previous document was one area was per tech and the second was for all of the techs. Do you want to check on that? Oh
yeah. Good catch.
Yay.
Good catch. I'm sorry.
You're great.
Go back there. I don't have to go through that. Yeah, getting ahead of myself. So yeah, this is for all the technicians in the field. So you take the number of techs and divide it by 18 or multiply it by 1,800, you come up with 10,992 hours that you have for your whole operation to run service calls. Thank you. I appreciate that catch. All right. And then we just do some calculations here. Your average cost for our annual cost for technicians is $46,540. Amount needed per hour to recoup your technicians' wages is $22.38. The dollar amount needed per hour to recoup the paid time off for all your technicians is $3.03. And so your yearly cost per year to pay for technicians' non-billable hours, which is their vacation, the holiday, sick days, training, and tech meetings, is $6,300. The dollar amount per hour to recover expenses is $32.75. The dollar amount needed per billable hour to recover owners and service managers' wages for their time in the office, because their wages weren't up in expenses, but they've got to be paid for that time in the office, is $449 for the service manager and owners. And then to recover wages for the inside support staff is $12.87. For this sample company, right now, we're looking at a cost of $72.49 just to break even for this company. And we're not done yet. We still got some more things to add in here. We talk about technician billing efficiency ratio. We know techs can't be 100% efficient. They have wasted time. They got to stop and fill up for gas. They stop and get coffee and donuts. They have to run by a supply house to get parts if you have you guys doing that. And so during this 8-hour workday, these technicians have wasted time that they can't bill out. So based on your company, I want you to think about that and how many wasted hours do your technicians waste each day where they're not able to bill out a call. And for my scenario here, I'm going to say the technician, my technicians waste an hour a day between parts, getting gas, coffee, donuts, whatever. I'm going to say they waste an hour. If yours is a half an hour, put 0.5. But I promise you, it's probably at least a half an hour. So put something in there. And the typical workday is 8 hours. So I'm going to put that in there. So my technician is only 87.5% efficient. He's not 100% efficient. We're only able to bill out 87.5% of his time, which leads to 1,374 hours of wasted non-billable hours that you can't bill for. And so that bumps our rate from, what was it up there, $72 up to $82.84 because of their inefficiency. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not that they're doing a bad job. We're just all inefficient at times, and we have wasted time. We know technicians have callbacks too, and somebody's got to pay for that callback. You've got to be able to figure those callbacks into your cost of doing business so that you are not going broke on callbacks. So I want you to put in the average percentage of callbacks for your technicians. Industry average should be, for the appliance industry, should be between 3 and 5%. If it's over 5%, you got an issue and you need to check in and see what's going on. Maybe they're mixed diagnosing. Maybe there's some more training that needs to be done. Maybe they're trying to rush through a call and not doing a complete diagnostic, but you're going to have callbacks. So what percentage do you think your callback percentage is? Put that out. And in this case right here, I'm going to say this is 5%. So that jumps our cost up to another $5 or $87.20. And as a result of these callbacks, that's an additional 9,068 hours that we're not able to bill for because of callbacks. And here is the most important thing of all. You want to make a profit on what you're doing, right? At least 10%, if not 15. You really should be shooting for 20%, in my opinion. You need to make a profit on your expertise, your professionalism, what you're offering for your customers. So I'm going to put in here for my profit, I want to see 20%. And when I do that, my hourly rate is now $109 an hour. Now I know if I'm going to charge an hourly rate, I need to charge $109. And if my diagnostic charge or my fee, you call it a trip charge, show up charge, diagnostic charge, whatever that is, and you've got 30 minutes of drive time and you've got 30 minutes for diagnostic time, your diagnostic charge should be $109. That's pretty simple. If you want your diagnostic time to be 15 minutes, you could take that and multiply it times 75%, and that would give you something in the $80 range, $85 range right there. But that should be a minimum diagnostic charge right there. Everybody got that? Any questions? You follow me so far? All right. Now,
I do have a question.
yes.
So we have to drive. So what do most service technicians, how far do they drive for a service call? Because I have to count that in for my cost.
You
Like we may
absolutely
have
do.
to drive 30, 45 minutes just to get to someone's house one way.
So are you able to track that drive time and get an average over a week or a month of your actual drive time?
I'm sure I can.
So
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
You know, this is all new to me. I haven't yet, but I'm sure I can.
So I would track my drive time. And if I see my drive time averages, you know, some's going to be an hour, some's going to be 30 minutes. And if you're scheduling your calls kind of in a sequential order where you cut down your driving time. But if your driving time is 45 minutes, and you're going to do 30-minute diagnostic time in that flat rate or in that diagnostic charge, I would take that 109 and multiply it by 1.25.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're an hour and 15 minutes is going to include your drive time and your diagnostic time.
Okay.
Okay. Now, a lot of you probably do warranty work. And when you do warranty work, that manufacturer or that third-party administrator is going to want to pay you a flat fee, right? Everybody agree with that? They're not going to pay you by the hour. They're going to pay you a flat fee. And so what you need to do here is you need to figure out, all right, this is my hourly rate, but how can I convert that to a flat rate? And so we're going to go down here and we're going to say, what's your call completion ratio? If you're running 8 calls a day and you only complete 5 of those, that gives you a call completion ratio because you're only going to be able to bill for 5 calls. But that 5 calls has got to be able to cover your cost for that 8-hour period because you got to pay your technicians for that 8 hours when they're working, right? And so what we're going to do in my scenario here, I'm going to say I want my technicians to catch eight calls a day. And of those 8 calls, on average, they complete 5 of them. So my call completion ratio is 62.5%. That's all I'm completing during the course of any given day, on average. Some days they may complete 7, some days they may complete 4 or even 3. But on average, if I track my calls over a period of a month, I can see they're running 8 calls a day and they're completing 5 of them on an average. Or if it's 5.5, or if you want to put a decimal in there, you can do that. 62.5%. And you see what that jumps my flat rate fee to? $174. All right. Now we know that includes our 20% profit, right? And if you're negotiating with a manufacturer and you're really wanting to get their work for some reason or other, and you want to take 10% off of there, then take $17 off of there and charge them $160 for a flat rate. if
Can I
you're,
interrupt you to ask a quick question?
yes,
Sorry. On the technician run, calls they run each day and complete each day,
yes.
would that, when you say complete, is that done, not returning? Because most of our
Yes,
techs
sir.
pause it.
Absolutely. That's
But-
done. It's billed out. It's ready to bill the manufacturer, or you collect the money from the homeowner. You do not have to go back.
Okay, thank you.
And if you're doing a lot of go backs, you know, where you're having to order parts and that kind of stuff, then that's just going to drop that completion ratio and drop your call completion ratio for the period of time. Make sense? All right. Now this is all based on labor. All right. When we start looking at parts, we know we all make a little bit of money on parts. Okay. And so we have little parts sections down here, and I've broken it up. If you track parts separately, I've given you 4 different categories: COD service calls, extended warranty service calls, warranty service calls, and then if you do over-the-counter part sales. All right. So in my scenario here, I'm going to say that I, on a retail basis, sell $100,000, well, not 10,000, $100,000. Well, I'll get it here. $100,000 in parts during the course of a year. And this is for the whole year. I can get that right off of my last year's financial statement if I've broken out my parts sales separately from my labor. Then I can get my parts cost if I track my parts cost for COD versus extended warranty versus warranty. If you don't track them separately, then you're just going to have to put your total parts for the year and then your total cost. But since I track my parts cost by service call type, I'm going to say that I spent $50,000 in parts costs. So I made $50,000 in profit on my part sales. My third-party warranty administrator parts, I spent $50,000 or I collected $50,000 in part sales, and they cost me $30,000 because I can't make as much on a third-party warranty administrator part as I can on my COD calls. I have, you know, they limit you 25, 30% markup. And so this case, I've made $20,000 profit on my part sales there. Warranty service.
John, can I interrupt you for one thing? We had a question come through the chat. We have a folk that's saying that in her downloaded form, the hourly billable rate and flat rate are displaying with the hashtag sign. Could that be because of the format of the document needs to be expanded?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
And that right there. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if he or she can send me an email, let me know that, then I can send them this form, because I don't know that you've downloaded this form. I can send this one that should be formatted correctly.
Great. If you're comfortable, I'll add your email address on there so that she can have that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be fine. All right. So warranty parts, $50,000. We all know that warranty parts, you don't make any profit on warranty parts. There may be 1 or 2 out there that give you some shipping or a little bit of percentage, but for the most part, you don't make any money on warranty parts. The flip side to that is you also don't get credit for all the parts you buy. So you may end up paying more for the parts that you purchase, because you got to pay for the parts up front, and you did not get all the credits back. So that cost may actually end up being more than what you spent. So in this case here, I'm going to say that my parts cost for my warranty parts was $55,000. So I actually lost $5,000 on parts. Either the parts didn't get back, they didn't get credited, the claim wouldn't go through, all kind of different stuff. So I'm going to say that I lost $5,000 on my warranty parts that I used during the course of the year. Over-the-counter parts, let's say I do sell some over-the-counter parts here. I got 25,000 and typically make pretty good on that. So I'm going to say again that maybe $12,000 was my parts cost. Sorry about that. And so total parts sales for the year were 250,000. My total parts cost was 147. And so I made a net profit of $103,000 on my part sales. That tells me that I can take $9.37 off of that labor cost for my COD labor, both flat rate and hourly rate, and reduce my actual cost of doing business. So in this case here, my number is now $99.63 for an hourly rate and $159.41 for a flat rate job. Does that make sense? All right.
So I have a question.
Yes.
When do you decide to charge an hourly rate versus a flat rate?
I would charge flat rate anytime you can. The only time you might need to charge an hourly rate is when there's a job that you have no idea what it's going to, how long it's going to take you to do it. You can't give the customer a flat rate quote to do the repair, but I would think that would be rare.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to have two scenarios here for you. If somebody called you and they wanted you to come just put an oven element in,
yes,
what would you charge the $99 or would you charge the $159?
It's a good question. If I knew what the flat rate was for that particular brand element and what have you, I'd go to my flat rate book. And
so your flat rate, like if it's just a basic GE, just a simple screw in element.
Yep.
That should not take them over 30 minutes to do, I wouldn't think.
Nope, it should not. But that repair, if you want to do the 159 or the 175, on
the flat rate, you don't include the parts on the flat rate. Is that right?
No, I would quote them once. I would look at 174 plus if the element was $50, I would tell the customer it's 225.
Okay, that was my question.
I would not break it down.
Yes, that was my question.
Yeah, I would not. Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm asking probably all these dumb questions, but I have no idea how to run this. So
oh, you're doing fine.
Hey, Don, can I ask you a question too?
Yes.
So on every day, I'm dispatching about 5 guys north an hour before they even start running calls.
Okay.
And then I've still got 16 to 20 in town where they're just dispatching locally. And I've got about 8 to 10 down in the El Paso area too, which is a different thing.
Okay.
The Santa Fe market's distinctly different than the Albuquerque market, which is different than the El Paso market. If I was going to go through here, I can isolate the El Paso market by their office support staff, their hourly, their salary, all their commissions and everything. I can do that and write that up and fill all that out for just them.
Yeah.
The Albuquerque Santa Fe thing, since we all dispatch out of the same building, that was going to be a little bit tougher because the drive time, the other stuff. So I don't know how I can.
So those guys that are catching the calls further away, and it's an hour drive time or something, maybe that diagnostic charge you're in your local area, maybe it's $100. But if you've got to drive to that next town further away,
more up in Santa Fe,
maybe it's $100. Yeah, maybe it's $150 diagnostic fee or $100.
We're doing basically a 4-tier system. So you have standard and premium rates locally.
Yep.
And then you have standard and premium rates in Santa Fe. So it's kind of a 4-tier system. So when the customer calls in and tells us what brand they have and their zip code, we can tell them what that hourly.
Yeah, that diagnostic charge is going to be different. 2 different diagnostic charges for your standard brand and your high end in your local, and then $50 more, $40 more, whatever it is, for that area that's further away.
So I probably just end up filling out a couple of these forms for my different areas, and then I can combine them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you can associate a cost to that particular area. You've got staff in an office down there and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some things that are part of your local operation that you have to support that remote area. And maybe you may want to add some of those expenses to that remote area just to make sure that you're covered. Maybe you send a service or a manager down there just to oversee things once a week.
Yeah, I think of the 22, 23 support staff that I've got, 3 are down in El Paso and the rest are here.
Yeah.
So, okay. I just making sure that it'd be best if I wanted a more realistic number would be to fill out these a couple of times.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't you take up that much time?
No, you're doing, and you can do this as many times as you want. You can, once you do this, save it under your name, so your company name and the date, and then you should do this at least once a year at a minimum. I would suggest anytime you add employees, you would redo it to see how much it's going to affect, because your expenses are going to go up, and it may affect it a few dollars. Just add an employee here or there, depending on whether it's a revenue generating employee or a dead, I'll use the word dead weight. It's not dead weight. There's support staff in there that's making sure the technicians can get their job done in the field.
Okay.
So
thanks, Don.
Yeah.
Hey, could I ask you a question?
Yes.
We're a self-servicing dealer, so we have salespeople and everything on the sales floor. How do you incorporate that information into this? Or is there a way to do it?
No, this is for standalone service. Hopefully you're separating your sales numbers from your service numbers.
Right.
If you're not, I would suggest doing that. But the sales expenses should be charged to the sales department.
Okay.
And I see that way too often where the service department or the sales department doesn't pay the service department for stuff that they have to go back and fix that you can't bill the manufacturer for. Maybe it's a poor install or something. Something should be worked out between the sales and the service. So every time the service runs a service call that that they can't bill the manufacturer for, then they should be able to bill the sales department so that the service department is getting credit for that. Does that make sense?
You got to have a comp system set up where we have a comp system that delivery and install will have to comp us for stuff, and sales, the multiple stores will have to comp us as well too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. All right. Anything else? We got about 3 minutes, I guess. Well, I guess we're supposed to be finished at 5:55, so you can jump into the vendor room. If you got more questions, you can come ask me questions in the vendor room. I'll be there today, tomorrow, and the next day to answer questions. As you're running through these, you run into something that's you got a question about, come visit me. I'll be glad to talk with you and try to help you get it figured out. All right. Thanks for showing up, guys. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you guys maybe a little closer in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.